Hey YouTube, it's Petey here, and I wanted to do a recommendation, not so much a review as a recommendation. Adrian Belew has a new album of original music, which is titled Pop-Sided, like lopsided, pop-sided. And this is Adrian's take on songs, going back to one, two, three, four, between 4 and 6 if you count the live recordings. About four or five albums back, there was something called Op Zop Tua, and that was the last songy Adrian Belew album that was songs. Now that was even starting to get a little bit chopped and screwed. For me, Adrian Belew has different segments of his career. The early stuff represented by Twang Bar King, Lone Rhino, and Desire Caught by the Tail, which he did another album called Guitar for Orchestra. But really, the one that I really love from that time period is the Desire Caught by the Tail, which that is the record that got his record deal. It ended his record contract with Island Records, was it? Atlantic? I'm not sure. He had a major label record contract, and he did an album called Lone Rhinoceros with Big Electric Cat, the song Lone Rhino. A lot of people are familiar with that record. The next one, Twang Bar King, I really like that album. I like that better than Lone Rhino. It's got some really unique stuff on it, but then there was this third album, Desire Caught by the Tail, which was instrumental, and it was all guitar synth, early rudimentary guitar synth, where he tried to emulate classical instrumentation with the synthesizer controlled by a guitar. So it's just very unique music. It's an old synth. It's maybe a GR300. It's a very rudimentary synthesizer that he's working with. That's some very adventurous music. It has wonderful feel to it. It feels like a musical concept album. That is one of my favorite albums to put on if you're going to work, if you're going to be doing painting or creative work, if you're going to be doing electronic soldering, something like that, doing a project. This is something you can put on repeat. It's a wonderful record. And we go up to 1987, 88, an album called Mr. Music Head. That begins the second middle phase of his career, which runs from Mr. Music Head, Inner Revolution album, Mr. Music Head, Young Lions, Inner Revolution, Here album, and then Op Zop Tua. Did I forget any there, honey? Hey, Donna? Hey, darling?
Huh?
I've been calling you.
I have my head in the freezer.
Mr. Music Head.
Better than the oven.
Young Lions. Inner Revolution. Here. And Op Zop Tua.
I believe so, yeah.
Well, Guitar for Orchestra,
Orchestra.
And Coming Attractions.
The acoustic Adrian Belew.
The acoustic Adrian Belew. So yeah, I mean, some of those are.
We have them all.
Yeah, some of those are iffy releases. Now, the strong albums, that's the midsection, and that's really where he's wearing his heart on his sleeve, and he's not preachy, but the lyrics are excellent, and there's a feel to that music. There's heart and soul to that music. There's just some wonderful songs on there. And that's what Pop-Sided is. Because, see, after Op Zop to Wah, when he got to that album, he was starting to already kind of lean towards what he did in the Flux years, which was he did the sides. There was 3 side albums: side 1, side 2, side 3, and then side 4 was side 3, the live one. There was a live version of that, an album, and then he started doing the Flux albums. Now the Flux is like snippets of songs or song ideas that kind of flow together. So it's reduced pieces of music. I got Flux Volume 1. There's Volume 2 and Volume 3. And shame on me, I haven't listened to those yet. I got Flux Volume 1 when I was sick. I was ill, having a panic attack that lasted a quarter. And there's some melancholy material on that. There's some kind of longing for your youth, longing for the good old days type of lyrics. And me being in the midst of a soul-crushing panic attack with fear of impending doom and claustrophobia, like to the point where I was in tears, like a never-ending type of thing. I couldn't listen to it. So I haven't really listened to the Flux stuff. I will just say that it left me reminiscent and wanting more of the old stuff, meaning that middle section, because I'm a fan of everything that Adrian Belew has ever done. It's all really good stuff, and some of it is incredibly good, and some of it is some of the best music I've ever heard. It's like that good, you know, better than the Beatles, if you can believe that. Now, I'm a fan of that middle section. Mr. Music Head, Inner Revolution, Young Lions, I always forget that, Here, and Op Zop. So basically around maybe Y2K is when we see the sides, and he's working with Les Claypool, he's working with Danny Carey, he's like doing instrumental stuff. Does this incredible instrumental album called E. It's very complicated. That represents him talking about that first album, Desire Caught by the Tail, then guitar as for an orchestra. Well, that third piece that fits in with that is called E. And he did that with an orchestra, the Metropole Orchestra in Holland. It's an incredible, that's like a lifetime worth of him flexing his music chops. Writing this piece for the guitar that's accompanied by the orchestra. It's this incredible piece that utilizes a looper, and it's some dazzling playing, and it's some astral plane level music. This stuff builds to a frenzy. They do it live. He's got this girl, female bass player, Julie Slick, who's just a wizard of the bass fretboard, and it's real complicated music. I don't want to say it's real complicated. It's instrumental and it's challenging. It's difficult to play, but it's very listenable. That's the thing about Belew. He's got heart and soul, even when you can hear his sense of humor, even in this mathy kind of complicated music, which is, I really love that E album. We can't forget about that. Out of all that instrumental and fluxy stuff that he did, where he kind of stopped writing songs, and I don't blame him. He had wore his heart on his sleeve and poured his heart and soul out into these songs and worked like a dog to bring this material out, playing all the instruments himself and recording and producing the stuff in his little studio, and then it didn't really do that well. I mean, he's got his group, the group of fans, the people that hardcore, dedicated, elite Adrian Belew fans, such as myself, and people that know who he is, and then of course musicians. It's mostly musicians that know who this guy is. But it's not weird music. It's world class, like just really good music. So I can see why he would want to do something completely different, and if that means just take it easy and write instrumentals and do snippets and not have to worry about anything except for throwing your ideas on the tape and releasing that to see how that does it. He had an app, a Flux app, that played this stuff and rearranged it so it was never the same twice. And then there's a Flux app for sound effects for producing music that is like a revolutionary way of utilizing audio effects processing. So it's really cool. This guy's career is fascinating. He's done some next level stuff. All of his stuff is good. Now the new album, Pop-Sided, I have this here. This is available right now on his tour. You get this on the tour. You can see. Signed it for me. I've got all of his stuff and most of it signed. Now, again, this here is just came out. Oh, it's got the lyrics on here. It's 11 song, 11 tracks on the album. I'm not sure if how many are instrumentals. Is it just one or is it two? And it includes his original artwork. You can see him painting here. He does some really unusual but wonderful artwork that he paints. And I tried to win one of those paintings. We took third place. He had a Finish My Demo contest years back, and I did an entry, and where I lowered the pitch of my voice, and kind of poking at him about him having writer's block, that he needs to come up with a contest to. This was a terrible song until I came along. Petey Twofinger comes and, you couldn't think of anything to say, so I had to come and write your lyrics for you. It was kind of how I did my entry, and of course that didn't go over very good. But my daughter and I did a duet song called Spies. She sang the high part, and I helped her with the low bits, and we did kind of I don't know, it's kind of a Bowie-ish sounding thing that we did, and we took third place for that. So if you go to adrianbelew.com and you find the Smarties contest, you can hear my daughter and I singing Spies. We were robbed. The other two guys that placed second and first place, sorry, Luca. Anyway, definitely check out this Pop-Sided album. Go to the tour. I reviewed the show the night we came back from the shows a couple days ago. I did a video about the tour. So don't miss the tour. Make sure you get tickets for the tour. It's an incredible, mind-blowing show. You definitely won't regret it, and the tickets are affordable. This album, I would say, if you don't have an Adrian Belew album, this would be just as good a place as any to start collecting them. It's a songy album full of old-fashioned pop songs. It reflects maturity in his lyrics. You can tell that he's coming up on 70. So he's got kind of an adult perspective. He's not a young 18-year-old guy chasing tail. But he never wrote songs like that, for the most part. He was always kind of wonderfully responsible. But as far as my expectations go, this album definitely meets what I was hoping for, being a collection of fully formed songs by a guy who has been an inspiration to me for the half of my life, and I have more respect for him as an artist than just about anybody else. I mean, to be honest, Mike Patton, Adrian Belew, Roger Waters, those are my guys. Maybe Harry Nilsson, Rob Fetters. Those are the guys that I really look up to. So definitely give this one a shot. He's going to be doing a full major label release with this at some point. For right now, it's only available on the tour. If he doesn't find a major label to shop this, he'll be probably selling it on his website. But you'll definitely hear about this when they do a full release for it. He's got another 18 songs that he's going to be going into the studio and recording another album coming out either later 2019 or 2020. Another album of fully formed songs by Adrian Belew. So I am very excited about that. It's not that I hated Flux or that I thought that it sucked. The first Flux album, it was too sad. It had just some melancholy stuff on it, and I wasn't in a place where I was able to hear that and digest it. And the side, there's some wonderful pieces of music on the side 1, 2, and 3. I played those albums quite a bit, but for me, my favorite music is the songy stuff where it's not so much instrumentals, where he's singing and the heart and soul is in there. We have a beginning, middle, and an end. So I'm not attacking him. I'm not saying that I hated any part of his career, and I do have to get Flux Volume 2 and 3 to complete my collection, and I want to hear them. It's just man, cash is so tight. $20 for a disc, it's not going to happen. So anyway, you guys, definitely give him a shot, and if you're really interested in buying some Adrian Belew music and you can't, you're not able to get pop-sided, well, go on his website and pick up a copy of Ops Up to pick up a copy of Inner Revolution here, Mr. Music Head. All of his CDs are top-notch stuff. So I can definitely vouch for him. Anyway, you guys, check it out. Adrian Belew, perhaps one of the most talented people in the business in this last century. He's up there on my list.